everyone, happy third day of spring. I'm so excited to talk to you about the weekend I just had. So for studio this weekend, we went on a little road trip and we went to 3 different places that all related to timber. So the first place we went to was Bensonwood, which is a timber fabrication manufacturing company. Then we went to the Hancock Shaker Village, which has a round barn with an incredible timber frame. And then we went to the Unalam facility, which Unalam is the leading manufacturer in timber glulam construction in the country. So we were really lucky to get to go to all of those places and get private tours of each facility. So now I'm gonna take you on a private tour to all of these facilities. So let's go. The first place that we went to was Bensonwood, which is a wood manufacturing company in New Hampshire. And what they talked to us about was how important it is for the architects to get wood manufacturers involved in the building process and designing process early on in the project, so that the construction process goes along a lot more smoothly and less changes are made along the way. So something that I thought was really cool that Bensonwood does is that they convert their shop waste into fuel to heat their building instead of using something like electricity or oil. So really nothing gets thrown away, and they're using 100% of the wood that they take in. Another thing that's cool that they do is they use cellulose insulation, which is recycled paper, instead of using something like rigid insulation, XPS, or fiberglass insulation. It's something like 85% recycled paper, and it sequesters carbon, so it lessens the carbon footprint of the building that it's used in. And it's more environmentally friendly, and it also, since it's not a solid material, it completely fills the space of insulation that it's covering, which something like rigid insulation wouldn't be able to do if there are slight crevices or pockets. Rigid insulation doesn't have the same kind of flexibility as the cellulose insulation. And another thing about cellulose insulation, because of the properties of the material, it helps the building to stay warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer, which also lessens the amount of mechanical heating and cooling that the building would need throughout the year, which helps with environmental impacts as well. They're also one of the few manufacturers that consider the entire wall construction when they rate the R value of their wall. Other manufacturers may choose a portion of the wall that doesn't have studs, so that they're not considering the impact of having the studs through the wall, which would act as a thermal bridge, which makes the wall less efficient. So what they do is they make their wall a little bit thicker to accommodate for thermal bridging with the studs, so that the wall is much more efficient and performs better than other manufacturers' walls, which claim that they have the same R value but are not exactly being truthful because they're not considering the thermal bridging that goes on throughout the wall. Another thing that was cool is they showed us a section of one of the finished floors that they were working on and how it was actually put together. And the way that they do it is a bit different than other manufacturers because of the quality of the wood and the quality of the glue that they have and the way that they've perfected their assembly techniques. They're able to have 2 continuous lines of glue, which you normally couldn't have. Normally you'd have to stagger the wood planks to accommodate for slippage or shear in either of the directions, usually the vertical direction. Since the quality of their assembly is so good, they can have that continuous line of glue in 2 directions, which is really incredible. So after Bensonwood, we headed back on the road to Massachusetts and we went to the Hancock Shaker Village. The Shaker Village is not typically open to the public, and we were very fortunate to get a private tour of the whole facility and learn about the history of the area, the culture and lifestyle of the Shakers, and really explore their architecture and attention to detail, and see that they actually were practicing minimalistic architecture before that it was even a thing. So the first building that we looked at the Shaker Village was the barn that they have, which is a round stone barn, and so it's stone on the exterior, and on the interior they have this amazing timber structure. And the reason why the barn is round is because it's very efficient, and it's a lot easier for trucks to just drive around in a continuous loop rather than having to back up. And it's efficient for feeding the animals, and it also helps to bring in great natural daylight throughout the day with the placement of the windows. They have clear story windows around the cupola. And they also made use of gravity by strategically placing their program so that the level above could then serve the level below. So the barn was built in 1826, and it was then restored in 1965. And so the cool thing about the restoration is that you can see the remnants of what the building was before. So one example of that is the addition of the cupola and raising of the roof. The workers complained that the roof was too low and they were hitting their heads. So what they did is they raised it up and they added a cupola with tons of windows to bring in more natural daylighting. And you can see the line of where the original roof was. Around the perimeter of the upper floors, they have huge doors that can open and let in fresh air and naturally ventilate the space, which was really necessary for a barn. They just were very intentional about their designs, and everything is very functional and purposeful. Dormitories, we looked again at how they position their buildings for getting all of that direct sunlight into the spaces, and the use of clear stories, transoms above the doors, having light wells throughout the building. And so they were very aware of the fact that daylighting and sun positioning and orientation is a crucial part of architecture and design. And the way that they used their windows, they had these pegs that would line the windows so that they could actually take out the window frames to clean them so that they wouldn't have to get up on ladders. And the pegs could also lock the window into different positions so that the window could stay open or closed at any position that they wanted to. So again, very purposeful, very thoughtful, and very functional designs. So after the Shaker Village, we went to Unalam, which is in New York. And Unalam is a leading timber and glulam manufacturer in the country. So it was a great experience to get to talk to these people who are so experienced and have been doing this for almost 100 years. And just to see the incredible work that they're doing, just so great, and gave me so many ideas for my own studio projects, which I assume was the purpose of these visits. As soon as we walked downstairs, we were met with this 5-foot deep glulam beam. It was incredible. It was really interesting to see how all these glulam pieces were created. I'll be honest, I never really considered how glulam pieces were made and created and glued and put together, and I didn't realize how much actually goes into it and how important that is to how we design our buildings. And so seeing that really helped me to understand what that all really means. The joint that they use to join two pieces of wood together is the finger joint, and it was really cool to see how strong that joint is before you even glue it. So one of the coolest things that I saw that they were doing was creating these really large curved glulam pieces, and to just see how they formed those pieces and the glue that they used to make those pieces, it was just so cool to see it all come together. And I think one of the greatest things about this is how rough and rugged it all is before everything's finalized. There's glue everywhere, and it's just very rugged and raw, and I like to see that side of it as opposed to the final beautiful sanded finished piece. There were just very cool details that went on, which are not necessarily intentional, it's just the way that it works out with the way that they're putting these glulam pieces together. The pieces of the wood start to, as you go around the curve, they start to get bigger and bigger and bigger. It's cool to see the form of the curve being illustrated by the width of the pieces of wood around the curve. Another interesting thing is that they're not only thinking about how to make these massive glulam pieces, they also have to consider how to transport them and bring them to the site and how it's actually built. So that's also something that we have to consider within our own projects, is are we making our structures so massive that they can't even physically be transported to the site? And does it need to be assembled on site? Can it be assembled in the shop where it's in a controlled environment? And these are things that we really need to consider. So I'm so glad that I got so much footage for you guys and that I'm able to share this experience with you, because I thought it was just such a great thing to be a part of, and I really learned so much from going to all of these places. And of course, it's always fun to go on a little road trip. So I hope you guys like this video, and have a great week, and I'll see you next Sunday.